When you farm in a way that's guided by regenerative principles or as applying agroecological practices, then the environmental argument for livestock farming kind of goes out the window. And I'm really happy to explore that as part of a conversation at another time. But what I'm really interested then is that you're left with the moral dilemma. Is it right? Is it appropriate to raise livestock for consumption? And the question then of how can I, as somebody who's doing that, love my animals? And I find this one really difficult to articulate. And I find that people really struggle to understand how I can love these animals, some of whom will be going into dairy production this year, and others who are primarily there for beef production. And I think what's interesting is that an experience as a human of bland consumption, where you're not thinking or engaging with where your food is from or the systems that are producing your food, can lead to a kind of like a lack of extremes in the human experience. But if we are connected with our food and in touch with where our food comes from and how it's produced, then we have the opportunity to experience the real highs and lows of the human experience and cherish that and kind of really recognise the benefits of all of those feelings and all of that experience, which I think keeps us more closely connected to our ancestors, to the land, to animals, who generally go through periods of contentment, or if they're under pressure from a predator, for example. So I think it's not a bad thing to feel love and compassion for animals, and also at the same time feel deep sadness at other times in the year when they may be going away for slaughter. It's a really difficult thing to come to terms with, and it's a really difficult thing to articulate and explain to others. And I think people who choose not to eat meat or animal products because of their moral or ethical obligations and feelings, I can kind of understand, and I think that if that's the choices they make, then that makes perfect sense to me. But for those people who make the same choices as me, i.e. to eat meat and dairy, but don't want to hear about how the animal is raised, they don't want to think about the characters or the character traits of these animals, they just want to kind of attach a number to them and just kind of pretend that they don't have sentience or intelligence, that really breaks my heart. These are incredibly characterful creatures. The white cow in the middle with the black face is incredibly intelligent, really, really clever. The wee calf here just lying down is quite shy, quite nervous, but actually has a really good connection and relationship with our oldest matriarch cow. Non-relation, but they have a good relationship. And it's just really interesting when you get to know your herd, you get to see how these animals behave, and you get to know them quite well. And I would love that people who eat meat want to understand that and share in that. And they don't just want to write these off as animals that are just a number who they don't want to think about. Because for me, that's heartbreaking. There's nothing sadder than reducing these wonderful creatures down to just a carcass, and actually enjoying their characters and enjoying their presence when they're alive is the greatest privilege that I think I could ever have.